Back in February, I made a video called My Hero Academia is Badass, in which I talked about how much the main character and his role in the story resonated with me. And while I still stand by what I said in that video, I don't feel as though the term badass appropriately describes why the show appeals to so many people, including myself. Ever since the second season began, I've been hoping to put together a follow-up video following the same theme. But instead of that, I'd like to provide a broader and more accurate description of why I love My Hero Academia. It's no secret that I have a deep passion for the shonen action genre. It was thanks to shows like Dragon Ball, Naruto, Hunter x Hunter, and Full Metal Alchemist that I got invested in the medium to begin with. And for a while, that was all I tried to watch. I loved watching these fictional characters bust out their magical powers in physical, calculated battles. I loved watching each cast mature and overcome life's various struggles. My Hero Academia embodies all of these characteristics, but it doesn't just strive to stand in the shadow of its contemporaries. No, it goes beyond! My Hero Academia is a love letter, a celebration of the tropes typically found in the shonen action genre, and I find it all the more enjoyable based on the parallels it shares with other shows like it. As far as the story structure goes, My Hero Academia resembles that of early Naruto, with its large ensemble cast and the use of supernatural powers in fairly grounded, tactical battles. For the most part, at least. On top of that, the parallels between its current sports festival and Naruto's Chunin exams are staggering. You know, someone should make a video about that when the arc is over. Despite the similar arc layout, My Hero Academia does more than enough to distinguish itself from Naruto. Not only are the characters themselves distinct, but their dynamics are different as well. For example, Naruto's main rival is also one of his closest allies. Team 7 consists of Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura, so these three characters are almost always working together in the early stages of the narrative. Izuku's main rival is Bakugo, but they're almost never on the same page. Izuku's closest allies are Ida and Uraraka, but even they oppose one another early into the arc. As far as the Bakugo-Sasuke comparison goes, while the two share several striking similarities, the way in which they are used couldn't be any more different. Sasuke is defined mainly by his seriousness, natural talent, and the too cool for school attitude he carried about him. Bakugo may share the last two aspects, but he lacks the first. The opening scene of him bullying Izuku is deliberately exaggerated, not for a dramatic or emotional effect, but for a comedic one. If the show wanted me to take Bakugo seriously, they wouldn't have him shout, "Die!" before throwing a baseball and then cut to Izuku reacting like this. Most of Sasuke's peers hype the hell out of the guy, but Sasuke's actions legitimize those claims. When he fought back Orochimaru's curse mark, and then kicked the crap out of Yoroi, I thought he was a cool dude. When Bakugo reclaimed his headband in the Cavalry Challenge, I was impressed, but cartoony expressions like this and this aren't what I would define as cool. This drags me back to that too cool for school mentality. With Sasuke, that concept was projected onto him by other people. He might be confident in his own abilities, but he doesn't hype himself to the same degree as Bakugo. Bakugo's classmates do the same thing to him, but he is actually self-aggrandizing. His ego exceeds his abilities, and when his new classmates stop feeding his ego, so too does the narrative. Bakugo is still talented, but he doesn't stand out when compared to a guy like Todoroki. In other words, Naruto's narrative completely buys into Sasuke's hype, while My Hero Academia only half-heartedly buys into Bakugo. Part of the intrigue behind Sasuke was his strength, and while there were several instances of Sasuke either losing his nerve or getting utterly defeated, it was made crystal clear that Sasuke was better than Naruto. The rest of the arc had hinted at the idea that Naruto could stand on equal footing with Sasuke, but it didn't actually come to fruition until the end of the Chunin exams. Conversely, Izuku stands up to Bakugo as early as episode 7. I wouldn't say that he outright surpassed him, but Izuku wins their match despite being the only one who gets physically broken. Another obvious parallel is the relationship between the two most prominent characters, Izuku and All Might. A shy, insecure boy and a bombastic, inspirational hero? It's Simon and Kamina from Gurren Lagann. In fact, it was this parallel that sold me on the series in the first place. Not simply because it exists, but because I can empathize with Izuku and All Might to a similar degree as Simon and Kamina. The duo isn't a carbon copy of its predecessor, it's a reimagining of the concept. So while it still carries the same emotional weight with me as the former, it doesn't feel like a cheap knockoff. Kamina was a reckless 18-year-old, while All Might is a more level-headed adult. On top of that, My Hero Academia's world has a stronger connection to reality, whereas Gurren Lagann's world was a much more idealized fantasy setting. All Might can be pretty reckless in his own right, but not nearly to the same consistent degree as Kamina. He has gained enough experience as a hero to know that he can't just bend the world to suit his desires. Kamina can, to an extent.
This is the part where I warn you about spoilers. If you haven't already seen Gurren Lagann or read the My Hero Academia manga, skip ahead to this time. You're welcome in advance.
I haven't read the My Hero Academia manga, but I got spoiled in a big way. I don't want to know how it happens. I don't want to know when it happens. But I have become aware of the fact that All Might dies later in the story. I bring this up because it only strengthens his parallel to Kamina. Kamina's death radically changed the trajectory of the series, and given the context of My Hero Academia's first arc, I know that All Might's death will do the same. However, it's obvious that All Might's ideology will carry on through Izuku and his classmates. As has been the case throughout this entire video, however, the context makes all the difference. Kamina and All Might are both leaders in their respective stories, but they each represent polar opposites of the spectrum. Kamina fights for change. He is defiant and confrontational. All Might fights to maintain peace. He is much more accepting and reserved. Comparatively speaking, All Might represents order, while Kamina is anarchy. As such, when All Might dies, all hell will break loose. The goal of Tomura's group was to assassinate All Might and instill chaos, so Izuku and the rest of his peers will attempt to restore order and prevent change. Conversely, Lord Genome and his disciples were quelling an uprising. When Kamina dies, the group ultimately continues to push forward toward the same goal: change the world. Is my appreciation for My Hero Academia partially influenced by the sources it takes inspiration from? Of course, but that's merely a fraction of the equation. Saying that I like the show only because of its predecessors would be like saying that I only like Naruto because it took inspiration from Hunter x Hunter, or that I only like Hunter x Hunter because it took inspiration from Dragon Ball. I enjoy My Hero Academia because it takes the beloved tropes of prior stories and applies them in new, creative ways. It's not just an unoriginal compilation of various other action shows, it's the ultimate tribute to the shonen genre. If you'd like to pay the ultimate tribute to this channel, consider sharing this video around and supporting me on Patreon, joining King Kevin 30, Micah Dunn, and everyone else who has supported me already. If you want to see more content from me, consider checking out my second channel, where I post wrestling content and other gaming stuff. If that doesn't interest you, keep an eye on this channel, as I've got a bunch of cool future projects in the works, including a multi-part analysis of one of my personal favorites. Until next time, keep on YouTubing.